Hello and welcome to the Play-by-Play Pod. My name is Leo West and I'm joined again by Jacob Smith. We have a great show planned for you today. We're going to talk Four Nations, going to talk some MLB because spring training is upon us. I just listened on the radio today on my way down to school. The the Phillies lose to the Baltimore Orioles 7-3. So that was just absolutely fantastic. And then the Phillies play the Tigers, so I'm sure you're happy about that. But it's just spring training, all right? It's just spring training.
2-0 though.
Tigers are 2-0. Just spring training. We're good. There's nothing to worry about. We're good. But yeah, we got a great show planned for you. Just a couple of things that we wanted to talk about before, or I wanted to talk about. This is just me specifically being a hater. Who is calling Jason Tatum the anomaly? Why is that a thing? Like I'm honestly so confused. Why is that? Like I've seen like 4 Bleacher Report posts. The anomaly with a dunk. Who? Why?
Jason Tatum also has like 5 nicknames, and like I feel like a new one gets created every time he has a big time performance.
Just call him JT. Just call him Deuce's dad or something like that. Like just not the anomaly. Who the fuck calls him? Oh, excuse me. Who the hell calls him the anomaly?
Whoa.
I'm gonna have to edit that out. Thankfully, we're not doing this live, so we won't. I mean, it's not like we're getting monetized anyway, but we won't get demonetized. So there we go. But yeah, it's stupid. Stop calling him that. I know I might be shouting into the void of nothingness, but it's dumb. Moving on. Yeah. Moving on. Bobby Portis suspended for 25 games. What is going on with NBA suspensions? This feels like the 2010s NFL for me, where like Ray Rice gets suspended 6 games for beating the crap out of his wife, and then like Josh Gordon gets indefinitely suspended for smoking a joint. What the hell is going on? Like, okay, Bobby Portis, for all we could know, he could have done PEDs. But the thing that he's going with is that he took the wrong painkiller medication, and the NBA has suspended him 25 games. Miles Bridges and Kevin Porter Jr. beat their significant others and were not suspended. They were just let go from their team. So, like, and that's a clarification. I was seeing on TikTok. I was like, people were like, "Oh, he missed a year of NBA." Yeah, because no team signed him. He wasn't suspended or anything, gang. Like, let's set the record straight. It's just weird.
Yeah. I'll never understand the NFL does the same thing. Other sports do the same thing. I don't get how you can get away with literally beating
with being charged with a crime
or driving under the influence or literally doing anything else and still playing like in that same season or not having the same suspension for taking the wrong painkillers or even painkillers in general.
Yeah,
like players take the right painkillers that they thought were okay,
and they still get suspended. I mean,
shout out Jameson Williams.
Shout out Jimmy Garoppolo too. We thought he was taking PEDs. I have no idea why he was taking PEDs and still suck, but it's just like medication or whatever. But yeah. I mean, like even with that, like it's got to change. But like even with that, sometimes the players are always like, "Well, I didn't know what I was taking." I'm like, "How do you not know, man?" It's like
you have all the money in the world to get all like the professional medication people that you would need to be around your surrounding at all times of the day, and you're still taking the wrong things. I mean,
it's like Mark McGuire. It's like Mark McGuire and when he was getting accused of taking steroids. He was like, "No, I was just taking vitamins. What the hell are you talking about?" and now we have and now he's a member of the Cardinals Hall of Fame. But yeah, and then some other news. I don't know if you've been watching large college basketball. Michigan State, what a game!
Oh my goodness.
SJU, we just played UConn and beat them again. I mean,
St. John's is looking legit.
I am getting off the seasonal college basketball bandwagon and hopping on the full-time college basketball bandwagon. Because let me tell you, man, I don't know if you saw my Twitter last night or the day. I was like, I was in disbelief. Also, I had no idea who Danny Wolf was until last night.
Really?
Friday night.
Remember last year when Auburn was upset by Yale?
Yeah,
13th seed. Danny Wolf was the star of the show. Yeah,
I picked Yale to win, but like I didn't know who was on their team. You know,
he's so skilled for how tall he is. I think he's around 7 foot, and he can play like a guard. Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, but yeah, SJU, and then Villanova beat the crap out of Marquette. What is going on, man? And then Alabama get like getting mollywopped in their game that they play. Who did they play? They play Kentucky or someone like that? They didn't play Kentucky.
Kentucky lost to Alabama yesterday.
Kentucky lost to Alabama. Who am I thinking of? I'm probably thinking of something else.
Yeah.
All right. But yeah, and then, of course, Zach Martin retires, NFL legend. I mean, he was 34 and was the best offensive guard or the best right guard in the NFL. I mean, we don't get too much talking about offensive guards as, we are very much seasonal sports fans here on the play-by-play pod. So, but when a legend like Zach Martin retires, you got to mention it. So I'm sure he's watching right now. I'm sure Zach Martin is like, oh, wow, thanks. I really appreciate the play-by-play guys shouting me out in my retirement. But, best of luck with whatever he does. Probably going to be like an offensive line coach, some high school or something like that.
Either that or media analyst.
Yeah, I mean, no one's going to give Zach Martin a job. I mean, unfortunately. I mean, like, think of everybody who's on Fox. Jimmy Johnson, Super Bowl winning head coach, Terry Bradshaw, Michael Strahan, Howie Long, defensive ends. He's not even a tackle. He's not even the sexy offensive line position. But let's get into some Four Nations talk. Obviously, USA losing to Canada, and we are all distraught. All right, we here south of the border are not very happy at the way things turned out in Boston, Massachusetts. I mean, I think it's pretty funny how Canada beats the U.S. in Boston, Massachusetts, and we think of like other historical events that happened in Boston, Massachusetts, the Boston Tea Party. That actually, you know what? I consider that a Boston massacre. That's what that was right there.
Yeah,
the dreams and hopes of USA hockey, and then like people are like, oh, Canada, wait till we play the World Baseball Classic again. I'm like, USA lost to Japan. We're losing. We're losing the plot. We're losing what is important here, and we're gonna come back in 2026 when USA and Austin Matthews doesn't play like complete garbage. And we're going to get the gold medal, all right? It's not 1984 anymore. It's 2025 where 30% of the NHL population is American. Those Americans better freaking bring it. But yeah, what we had in our script was we wanted to talk about, like, does this All-Star weekend match up to other All-Star weekends? And I want to hear your opinion, Jake.
I mean, if this isn't the perfect example of how to handle an All-Star weekend, I don't know what is. NBA needs to take notes. NFL needs to take notes for sure. MLB can cut you slack a little bit, but this was the perfect example of what an All-Star weekend should be if executed right. Because we saw the NBA with their probably fourth format in the last whatever years. Adam Silver's tried to switch up the All-Star game every other year, it seems.
That was so stupid.
Yeah. But because the NBA All-Star game this year was a draft of 4 teams. The Rising Star team that won that game went and faced off against the other 3 drafted teams. But the NBA tried to do it a little bit. They had Chuck, Shaq, and Kenny, like, behind the scenes pick their teams. One team was clearly the world, one team was clearly the younger All-Stars, and one team was clearly the OGs. And, I mean, obviously it sounds like a good idea in theory, but it was just executed poorly with how much commercial time and Kevin Hart yapping there was. So the NHL did this right, and they obviously was a better product than what the NBA was putting out. I mean, putting literally all of your all-stars for each of the represented countries. Whenever you're playing for your own country, you're going to have 10 times more passion than any other game you're going to play. You heard all the people interview afterwards that faced off in that series and that NHL All-Star format. They all said this was so much more impactful than playing in a Game 7 of the NHL Finals. That's what you're going to get when you put the best players in the entire world, in your entire league, all on the ice at the same time, representing their own nations. I think it was just literally the perfect example of what an All-Star weekend can be for any sport. I feel like I said, NBA, NFL, their products are not great. They have ideas in theory that are not executed well. And I feel like it's just, at the end of the day, it comes down like a marketing stunt. Like the NHL, like not everybody knew exactly what was going on with this tournament either. But once you get the countries behind, and once you get players committed to play for their country, then all the support from those countries themselves and the citizens and the viewers and all that are going to come and follow no matter what it is. I mean, we had people watching hockey that probably don't even know what hockey was for this tournament, and it broke the record for most views for a hockey game ever. So, I mean, props to the NHL.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it too, because the thing is the players will still get all-star selections, like even the players who aren't in the Four Nations. So don't worry, Matej Michkov fans, he will get an all-star selection somewhere down the line, I mean, I don't think he's ever going to play in the Four Nations face-off, politics aside. But yeah, I do like how they did it. And I mean, the NBA has been getting a lot of shtick recently for the product they're putting out there. But I watched a Houston Rockets Minnesota Timberwolves game, and I was enthralled. So I watched it, and I was like, wow, this is peak basketball right here, just back and forth. And that's when the NBA is at its best, when you have your two young guns and Jalen Green and Anthony Edwards and Alperen Şengün, and I mean we saw Luka Garza got minutes on prime time. That was a game. But I think what people are complaining about is they definitely have a reason to complain. With the NBA, I'm like who I played for Team Shaq in the 2025 NBA All-Star game. What does that even mean? Like I don't really get what they were going for. Just do East-West. I mean, people being uninterested in the NBA is I think is something that I don't have the answer to, or the NBA would have hired me already. Like I don't know.
Most definitely.
I don't really know what you do to make the NBA All-Star weekend more fun. I mean, literally the only guy who cared that weekend was Mac McClung, and maybe Stephen Castle, however you say that name. The rest of them, no. I mean, actually, no. The Spurs cared. Because they were Chris Paul and Victor Wembanyama trying to find a loophole in the skills challenge. I mean, it's the most Chris Paul thing I've ever seen in my entire life, besides him losing in the finals. That was hilarious. Mac McClung and the Spurs are the only three people who tried all All-Star weekend. No one else no one else tries. It's just I just don't get it. And with the NFL, I mean, players just don't want to get hurt, and I think it's kind of turning into that NBA sort of thing where players are like, oh well, I don't want to get hurt. I mean, it's like a whole thing in football, because some college players don't want to play their bowl games to hurt their draft stock, but I guess it makes sense, because if you get hurt during the Pro Bowl, you could potentially lose out on millions and millions of dollars, which I feel for the players. I mean, I'll never be in position to do that, but they try hard during flag football. I can tell you that much. The first flag football game I watched, that was watching Tyreek Hill get trucked out of the end zone. That was good. I just think I think people are kind of tired of the NBA format of All-Star weekends, and you see something similar with the NFL. People are like, "Oh, what's this crap?" And you got a traditional NFL fan being like, "Oh, flag football. Why don't they just hit each other like real men?" I just don't think we're be able to find a balance like that. But I don't think there's a community who's more unanimously in agreement on something working than the NHL right now. And Four Nations, total success. Absolutely, positively a total success. And I think it stacks up really well against the other All-Star weekends. Criticism aside, praise aside, let's move on to some of the players who stood out to us in the Four Nations face-off. For me, it was Jacob Slavin, however you say that name. Look, I'm not a big hockey guy, but man, was I a big hockey guy when USA played. And I was watching. He played 40 minutes in the championship game, because no one. We said before the show, Charlie McAvoy not being there was a big thing. But outside of Slavin and Zach Werenski, oh my gosh, this hockey names, man. Werenski, Zach Werenski. Those guys were the two best players for Team USA all tournament, besides Connor Hellebuck. Those two guys are the two best players all tournament for Team USA, and I really think without them, this would have ended. This tournament would have ended a while ago for Team USA. I don't think they would have gotten past Finland or Sweden. I mean, they didn't get past Sweden, but they still were they kept it close and they fought till the end. I just think why USA wasn't able to succeed was the lack of goal scoring, but we'll get into that later. And then how can you not mention Four Nations without mentioning Jordan Binnington? I know that Nathan McKinnon won the tournament MVP or whatever the award was, but 34 saves,
and unreal.
12 saves in third period in overtime. I still got basketball brain, man. I've been calling. I'm gonna go on a tangent. I've been calling so many basketball games for my school that it hasn't set. It doesn't reset. But yeah, 12 or something saves in the third period in overtime, And then well, we went to double overtime if I'm not mistaken, or it just went to single overtime. Yeah, I think no, it was just single overtime because
Yeah.
yeah, and then sets up and then his heroics on the defensive end. I swear to God, I thought I was watching someone play NHL 25. I don't know if any of you guys have played the video game. Me and Jake have. The goalies either are Swiss cheese or they're Jordan Bennington in the championship game of the Four Nations face-off. And like that save where he just like snagged it out of the air and then fell down. I've seen that animation like 18 times on NHL 25, and I swear to God, I mean now I feel like the game's realistic. After seeing how incredible of a performance that was, but I mean. Outside of Canada's loss to Team USA, I thought he had a really good tournament. And then I want to shout out Sam Ersson too, the Flyers goalie. I hate the Flyers, but Sam Ersson gets a lot of shtick from Flyers fans, and he put up an all-time performance against Team USA versus Sweden. I just wanted to shout out him. But Jake, tell me who your players are.
Yeah, I mean, my analysis is a little bit different because I feel like I'm going to go a little bit more off like what was not there. Because obviously losing Charlie McAvoy for Team USA was a big kind of punch in the gut. We saw how he played in that first game against Canada. He was a big contribution for USA and for how they won that game. I think 5 total hits in the first period of that game, and like you could tell he was all over the ice. That's to that extent. So I feel like losing him obviously kind of derailed USA's chances. I also believe that Canada was a little bit more. I don't know what's the word. Like they're a little bit better on paper than USA was for both matchups coming into the tournament. And then obviously USA just had a little bit too many injuries to overcome. Like even like Brady Tkachuk going down in that second game.
Yeah, that's just
Canada,
that. I think that was like the nail in the coffin almost. I mean, I don't mean to cut you off, but like you're right. Like Canada's roster was nearly flawless, except they didn't have a goalie, and then they had a goalie for that championship game, as you saw. So.
Yeah, most definitely. And I mean, I was going to shout out Jordan Bennington as well because he really did step up. Obviously, that was Canada's biggest weakness on paper, and both on film for the first few games of that tournament. Especially with the defense that Canada has as well. It's a little bit of a weaker defense. It was basically Drew Doughty leading that.
And then Cale Makar got hurt too.
Exactly. Cale Makar was injured. So with him and Drew Doughty, who's a little bit past his prime now, kind of leading that unit in the back for Canada, you could obviously see that there was weaknesses, and the fact that Jordan Bennington had the performances that he did, especially in that second game when it mattered the most, absolutely unreal. And then I mean, Team USA, we mentioned how Austin Matthews really didn't show up. It's never really been his DNA to show up, especially with the Maple Leafs in finals and stuff like that. I was going
to say Toronto Maple Leafs doesn't. You can take the man out of the Maple Leafs, can't take the Maple Leafs out of the man, and that was on full display, especially in that championship game. That shot right in the slot, where all he has to do is just, I mean, me and Jake have never played hockey, so we're one to talk. But like he just hits off Jordan Bennington's right side blocker or whatever, left side, right side blocker, whatever it was, and Canada went on to win. And Austin Matthews was also supposed to be guarding Connor McDavid on that last Canadian possession down there right before he scored the goal. And I was thinking to myself, I don't know I don't know what clip it's from, but the only thing I was going through my head was, who's marking him? Who's marking him? I'm like, we let the best player of the world slip between the cracks of our defense. I mean, when you're playing 75 minutes of hockey, mistakes are bound to happen.
Yeah.
So
I feel like with Connor McDavid is the best player in the world, and that was kind of nothing short of just a lost man. I mean, obviously, like whether it was Austin Matthews' man or not, he was the one closest to McDavid at the time. He kind of just like floated to the puck when it was like by the boards, and then obviously that got swung into McDavid right in front of the goal. He's not going to miss that shot. And then if I were to have to pick to shout out some people, it would be Connor McDavid and Nathan McKinnon, because they obviously played the best for Team Canada. The play on the wings that they provided, it was just a different dynamic. USA hadn't seen that from Finland or Sweden in this tournament, I don't believe. And I feel like it's just too much star power. McDavid and McKinnon are going to get through anybody, and they were definitely putting pressure on. I feel like USA just stalled a little bit in that offensive zone. Obviously, the goal scoring was just not there, like we mentioned. Kind of in the tournament, but definitely both games against Canada as well. That was definitely evident. And when you have that many stars on the ice at the same point, that's not as entirely acceptable as you would hope. But I mean, It was definitely like a good effort that second game. Like I said, I feel like kind of going into it, like I had a feeling that USA would be a little bit lucky to scrape away with another win, because the first game did come down to the wire thanks to Dylan Larkin, who put that kind of nail in the coffin there. But definitely just Connor McDavid and Nathan McKinnon have to be on my shouts, but also the absence of Charlie McAvoy, I think, was the biggest thing to overcome for Team USA in that final.
Yeah, 100%. I would like to mention how Jesper Bratt was outperformed Jack Hughes, even though Jesper Bratt didn't advance to the championship game. I just feel like the lights were too bright for Jack Hughes. I mean, he hasn't really been in a position. The Devils really haven't in a position where they've had a lot of playoff experience. They just had the one series against the Rangers, and then they got swept by the Hurricanes a couple of years ago. That's about it, though. Like, and that's kind of the shame where you see these good players and they just kind of woefully underperform. It's just it kind of sucks, and especially with Austin Matthews because he's the captain of the team.
Yeah, and if he's leading the team like that in that final play, like we said, but also I think just outside of Jack Hughes as well, the entire USA team doesn't have like overwhelming playoff experience. I mean, Jack Hughes, only like one series, as you mentioned. Austin Matthews has obviously been there a lot, but he hasn't really gotten over that hump.
He's never they've never gotten past the first round, I don't think.
Yeah, exactly. And Dylan Larkin is another name I threw out. The Red Wings have not had playoff experience when he's been on that roster. So like just some of those guys like that we're mentioning out here, definitely I feel like a lack of playoff experience plays into how they played in that final game, because it was the biggest game probably of most of their hockey careers for the players on Team USA.
100%.
And then obviously, like when it's your first game with that big of expectations, you're not going to play your best. It's going to be a lot more like just scrappy hockey. And I think especially those first 5 minutes of that game, when the puck dropped, you could tell everybody on both teams was so frantic and like they were so juiced up. They were coming in this game like, all right, let's do this. Let's just wreak havoc and go at it and just kind of just chase the puck a little bit. That's how the game started. There was definitely moments throughout the game as well where it did continue like that. But I think that's just what you're going to get, especially with a bunch of young guys who have not been into the postseason or even made it that far in the postseason, kind of combined together. They're just going to kind of play frantic, throw it around, and you're not going to get the best results sometimes, only just flashes of them.
But yeah, like Jake, you were saying, I just not a lot of playoff experience, but hopefully, I mean, it hurts to lose, man. I'm on an intramural basketball team. We are winless, and I am in the same position as Jack Hughes right now. The expectations were high, but the teams they were better, man. They were better. But yeah, Four Nations, big success. That's really the only kind of thought I have with that. I cannot wait to see how it goes again next year. I mean, honestly, I don't think will they have a Four Nations face-off before the Olympics? I don't know. I don't know how that's going to work.
Things could change a little bit there, but I mean, definitely they'd benefit from it. It's just a matter of the same amount of players are going to contribute and commit to playing for those teams with the Olympics coming up.
Yeah, we shall see. But yeah, the segment that I think a lot of us have really been wondering who is the off-season winners in MLB. So me and Jake picked one team from the NL and the AL because this would take an hour if we did any more teams than that. But yeah, spring training started. The season starts in 3 weeks, 4 weeks. So, it's already moving along. I mean, I didn't even realize spring training was on because I was just going through the Real Sports app, see if there's any college basketball games on at 4:30 because you never know these days. And I saw Dodgers Cubs. Oh my God. Yeah, I'm watching that, dude. I don't even care. What the stakes are. I'm just gonna watch. I'm watching baseball.
It's so nice to have it back. Oh my goodness.
But yeah, let's get into some winners and losers of Major League Baseball's offseason. So for the first winner that I have, I think it's almost as obvious as the NBA trade deadline. Another team from Los Angeles. Another team from Los Angeles. The Los Angeles Dodgers are my NL winning team of the offseason. I mean, MLB gave them an entire article by themselves. Because when I was looking up my other team, all of their moves were just in one big giant article. The Dodgers have their own article. So let's just roll off the notable acquisitions. Blake Snell, 5 years. Roki Sasaki, multiple year deal. Teoscar Hernandez, 3 years. Tanner Scott, 4 years. Clayton Kershaw, 1 year. Ha-Seong Kim, not Ha-Seong Kim, Ha-Seong Kim from the KBO, 3 year deal. Kirby Yates, 1 year deal. Michael Conforto, 1-year deal. Blake Trinan re-signed 2-year deal. Kike Hernandez re-signed. Giovanni Gallegos has a minor league deal. Giovanni Gallegos was pitching in the World Series last year, and the Dodgers got him for a minor league contract. What is going on? What is going on? And I heard a lot of people say, baseball's ruined, reading the salary cap. No, your owner just doesn't want to spend the money because Bob Nutting of the Pittsburgh Pirates, easily worth over $5 million. Who have they signed? They don't even try. They don't even try. Yeah. Jerry Reinsdorf, his family worth over $6 billion. What does Chicago White Sox do this offseason? Exactly. So to that point, your team can spend that money, and the players can go to your team, man. Players can go to your team. Your owner is just a stinge bag, and I don't understand. Why people like you buy a baseball team to do what? Sit and watch it. I mean, I could go on like another tangent, but the so-called ruiners of the MLB season already, we're already skipping to 2026 in some people's eyes, is the Los Angeles Dodgers. I mean, I am at a loss for words about what they were able to do. I mean,
and they're coming off a World Series too. They won the World Series, and they are now better than they were last year.
They're better than they were. I mean, Yoshinobu Yamamoto.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Not only to win the World Series, like they were dominant all season, and bringing back some of these names, especially like getting guys like Clayton Kershaw and Giovanni Gallegos back on a minor league deal, like, just guys that don't need to come back, but like want to. They literally want to be in Los Angeles. Yeah, I think that's a testament. Like it having the money and the resources to be able to throw at all these free agents definitely helps that. But I think it's also a good culture that they have in Los Angeles. People want to be there. They know they're going to compete. Obviously, that helps. But I think just all those guys coming back. I mean, you read the list. It speaks volumes, and it's part money, but also just a part of a good culture. But go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Yeah, no, you're fine. Yeah, it's just, I really don't understand how they were able to do all that. I mean, just look at their lineup. Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Teoscar Hernandez, Max Muncy, Will Smith, Michael Conforto, Tommy Edman as well. Tommy Edman, a guy I forgot to mention, because he was apparently he's not even a notable acquisition according to MLB. He got traded and signed a 5-year deal with the Dodgers, and he doesn't even make the list. Tommy Edman doesn't make the list. He's an all-star. Like the sheer amount of people they were able to sign is just insane to me. Like. I mean, Chris Taylor's on their bench. Like, I mean, okay, like granted, he had a .6 WAR last year. It wasn't great, but he's also an all-star. And then look at the rotation: Yoshinobu Yamamoto, Blake Snell slots in there, Tyler Glasnow coming back from injury, Roki Sasaki. I mean, he's on I don't think he's part of he was like a non-roster invitee, so just like it doesn't matter. And then like Tony Gonsolin, that's without Shohei Ohtani and Bobby Miller. And I really hope Bobby Miller is feeling better after I saw him get, your prayers up to him after he got hit in the head by a line driver over the middle. I hope he's doing good. But then, you look at the bullpen: Tanner Scott, Kirby Yates, Blake Trinan, Michael Kopech, Alex Vesia, Anthony Banda, Michael Grove, Dustin May. I mean, and then
Dustin May and
guys who are hurt: Emmett Sheehan and Gavin Stone. They're both expected to make returns this year, and then you got Brusdar Graterol, who's coming back too, and Evan Phillips, who's coming back too. I mean, like, where do these guys get off, man? Like that, and like that was just me listing off their players. Like that is like a team you would create that's a team you would create to blow off steam in MLB The Show. That's not a team that just normally exists. I mean, maybe the argument is you incorporate some sort of luxury tax, but then it's essentially kind of like a salary cap, even though there is kind of a luxury tax in baseball. But like, it's just amazing what the Dodgers were able to do this offseason. I'm just in shock about what they were able to do. I mean, it looks like they're gonna win the NL West again, unless the Padres end up making a move, or the Giants end up making a move, or the Diamondbacks make a move, which you should kind of already maybe have a suspicion on what the Diamondbacks and Giants are going to do if you read this week's play-by-play Substack. But I'm not going to tell you what I wrote about on there. So Just make sure you guys check it out. But yeah, Dodgers, clear winner. Jake.
Yeah, I wanted to pick the Dodgers, but I wanted to be a little bit different just because I think the Dodgers are probably one of the best teams that we've ever seen assembled. I'm not like I don't think it's any shortage of a hot take to say that, but the team that I want to go with is New York Mets. Kind of a similar situation. They have plenty of money to throw around because they are one of the top markets, but I think that they did it in the right way. Obviously, the big transaction they made was bringing in Juan Soto on a 15-year deal that was worth 780 million. I mean, absolutely unreal. I feel like it's worth it though. Obviously, it's going to work out in the long run. Juan Soto is up there with the top two, probably if not one, best players in the entire MLB. So bringing him in obviously changes the dynamic of everything you do because it having Juan Soto is going to make you a contender, especially you have the other pieces around like they do. Because this team has Francisco Lindor, Mark Vientos, Francisco Alvarez back there. And then they also just brought back Pete Alonso. I like bringing back Pete Alonso a little bit, like almost just as much as signing Juan Soto in itself, just because that first base position.
So yeah,
exactly, yeah, that first base position had a little bit of uncertainty if he wasn't going to come back. So obviously, getting Pete Alonso to bring you in 40 home runs a year, that's going to help you out a ton, especially when you got guys that are like Lindor and Soto are obviously good power hitters too, but they're going to be getting some of those more doubles, gappers, singles, even triples even. So I think having Pete Alonso's power dynamic also helps them out a lot. And that deal almost didn't go through. Like they waited pretty much the entire offseason to bring back Pete Alonso.
Yeah.
And obviously there was mutual interest, pardon me, because like Alonso wants to be here. And like you said, Met through and through. Absolutely insane offseasons from them. I think they also brought in a few other names like Sean Manaea. They re-signed Clay Holmes. I like bringing him in as well. Frankie Montas on a 2-year deal. They re-signed Jesse Winker, who can still play ball. I know it's not in the Mariners Jesse Winker anymore, and then Jose Siri in a trade with the Rays. So those names, pairing them all up with some of the names they already had, because this team made the playoffs last year, and they didn't just make the playoffs; they made the NLCS exactly. So I know they had like a little bit of a run late in that season. They really kind of were in the middle of the playoff picture and not until late in that season, and then they obviously had that crazy Pete Alonso home run over the Brewers in the wild card that got them to the position they did. So I think that just bringing back a lot of the important guys of the foundation that just had a miracle run season is a great thing for this team. Adding Juan Soto only makes them 10 times better, I think. And this team's going to be scary. I think they're one of the only teams that can truly compete on paper with the Dodgers. And in terms of payroll and stuff like that, obviously there's other teams like the Phillies, the Padres, your Braves. They're all going to be talented and in that mix. But the Mets and Dodgers kind of look like that 1-2 punch. I mean, if you were to just go logistically, I feel like they would meet in the NLCS with the rosters they have. But I think that bringing back Juan Soto and definitely bringing back Pete Alonso is the best thing that the Mets could have done for this offseason.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in total agreement with you, Jake. I'm in total agreement with you. I mean, the NL West looks like, or NL East, excuse me, looks like a completely different, map than it did a couple of years ago, or actually even just last season. The Phillies look like they're going to be the second place, even third place team, if the Braves end up having a good year because all of their guys are coming back. But yeah, that was an excellent point, Jake. I definitely think the Mets are 100% winners. I mean, you look at that lineup, 1 through 4. It's just Lindor, Soto, Vientos, Alonso. Put Winker down there. Look, they have a really solid lineup too. I really do like what the Mets did as a begrudging Phillies fan. But let's move on to the AL. I know we touched on them last week, and really outside of the Yankees, I don't really think there was at least for me, a big real offseason winner. But it is the Boston Red Sox. I mean, going out and getting Alex Bregman was already a move that was like, oh, well, you won the offseason because you got a guy who is just a certified baller. And did you know Alex Bregman is only, where is it at? Alex Bregman he's almost 31 years old. I thought he was like 34. So I was thinking to myself, I was like, why are the Tigers giving Alex Bregman 6 years for him to be 39 at the end of his contract? No, it would have been smart. It would have been a relatively smart deal. But yes, outside of the big one in Alex Bregman, they bring three pitchers into that rotation. Garrett Crochet with the trade with the White Sox, Walker Buehler on a 1-year prove-it deal, Patrick Sandoval to round out that 5th spot, and then looking down the line here. I mean, Aroldis Chapman is just to get butts and seats. I mean, I don't think the Red Sox have a problem with selling out Fenway Park, but that right there just screams. Well, let's just get a veteran guy that a lot of people know. And another Yankee. Another trivia question for you. Another Yankee who is a Red Sox that is a Yankee. But yeah, and then they bring in Adam Ottavino and Matt Moore on MILB deals. But to be honest, they lost a little, but got back a lot. I mean, the biggest one for me is Nick Pivetta, because Tyler O'Neill was only there for a year. Nick Pivetta was a really solid, very, very solid arm, and almost their ace at one point when you had guys go down with injury. Nick Pivetta was just a constant in that rotation, but it was like cut off one head, three more will replace it, and that's what I really see with Crochet, Buehler, and Sandoval. Obviously Walker Buehler is definitely a wild card. We have to see how he looks after the injury. But the Red Sox lineup was already at a good spot, and we talked about it last week. Because they do have some players in there that they want to try out and see if they work, like Weiler, Abreu, Ceddanne, Rafaela. But they got Bregman, Devers, Duran, Casas, Yoshida, Story if he ends up being good. All guys who are ballers right now. They are really good. And even the guys that I mentioned, Ceddanne, Rafaela, had a 1.5 WAR, and then Weiler Abreu had a 2 WAR. That's some good stuff right there. I mean, you would like for them to upgrade catcher. I mean, they have Connor Wong in there, and he was only a .6 WAR player, and he just wasn't. He's just not really an awe-inspiring option. But outside of that, I thought the Red Sox had a very good offseason.
Yeah, I agree with you, Leo, because I think it's kind of like you were saying, a few guys are kind of prove it deals or kind of have to see how they work out. I feel like this Red Sox team it's got the potential. It needs to come together on the field. Obviously, adding Alex Bregman is definitely going to help with that and solidifying that rotation, even with a few questionable guys such as Walker Buehler and Lucas Giolito. I think that solidifying that and giving at least like a few arms that have proven themselves in the past to really come in and mesh with some of those younger guys they got and in the lineup as well. Because like guys like Jarren Duran, very young, up and coming hitters. So I think they have a great pairing of age together. I think a mix of veterans, mix of young guys, rotation solid, just has to come together on the field. I feel like it might be a question mark. They might start a little slower, but I think they're a team to watch out to get a little bit hot later in the season.
They're a real boom or bust team, and I think they might have a bigger boom than the Yankees. Because the reason why I didn't put the Yankees as a winner is simply because if Aaron Judge goes down, that lineup looks horrendous. There is not really a bat that inspires me too much, because I mean, like Gleyber Torres. I mean, he was. I mean, even like losing Gleyber Torres. I mean, that was like their second best hitter outside of Stanton in the playoffs. I mean, Bellinger is for sure an upgrade to to their outfield, and having Judge not in center field is definitely going to help him play a little longer this season instead of getting hurt. So I'm glad that they did that, but like I just feel like they didn't really move the needle too much, even though they added so much, talent getting Max Fried. But I feel like the Red Sox made like moves where you can say, okay, they got so much better than they were last year.
Yeah, it's gonna help them out on the field for sure. But I mean,
100%.
They're gonna take. This is gonna be, I feel like, a stride, because obviously they were 81 and 81 last year. This next season, they're putting more pieces together. They're committing to wanting to contend. It's just a matter if it comes together on the field, like we said. But I think this is definitely a step in the right direction year. And then I feel like next year they can add a few bit more pieces and really try to push for a World Series contention. Right there.
Yeah, I think this. I mean, I'm sure the Rays will get the last wild card spot by some miracle. Some unknown South American man is going to have the best season in MLB history. If that doesn't happen, I think the Red Sox can be a wild card team.
Most definitely.
Yeah. All right. What about you? Who's your winner?
Yeah, my AL winner is going to have to be the Detroit Tigers. I know it doesn't exactly scream at you, and I'm not going to mention the fact that I'm a fan here. I'm just going to talk from a neutral perspective here.
Homer.
I feel like looking at some of the other AL teams, like we mentioned, the Yankees, they didn't really win, and a lot of these other AL teams, like the Guardians, who went to the ALCS, got worse. They lost a lot of guys. The Royals, who were kind of right there in the thick of things, made the playoffs. They're right there last year with the Tigers and Guardians. They added Jonathan in India, but that was kind of about it. The Minnesota Twins didn't do anything drastic. So I feel like some of those teams that have already been contending didn't really take a step up. And I know that putting the Tigers and contending in the same sentence is a little bit unfamiliar for some baseball folks, but I feel like this team's good. And obviously they're young. This season, it's going to be hard to replicate. I feel like the success they had last year. Last year was definitely a miracle season for the Detroit Tigers. I mean, they had that 2% chance in August to make the playoffs, somehow snuck their way in and got that series win over the Houston Astros. So obviously, I feel like that's a miracle season that might not be replicated again. But this team did get better than they are last season. No denying that. They added Jack Flaherty on a 2-year deal, 2 years, $33 million, which I think is absolutely perfect for Jack Flaherty. That's going to help the rotation out a lot because Tariq Skubal won the Cy Young. He's obviously that number one guy, probably a top pitcher in baseball right now as we speak.
If top three, if not the best.
That's what I'm saying, exactly. So you added Jack Flaherty, and that's obviously your solidified number two. That's a great 1-2 punch. Up there with some of the better ones in the league, but it's not like anything that's going to crazy wow you, but it's definitely something to fear hitters. And then they got some younger arms coming up. I mean, Jackson Jobe just got the call. He's getting some spring training starts, so he's going to be that guy who's going to come in here. Obviously, it's going to be his rookie season, so things might get shaky. Reese Olson's a guy that's proven himself on multiple occasions in starts. Was having a really solid year last year before he got hurt a little bit and banged up, and then came back for the playoffs. So he's going to be taking that next step as well. And then you got Casey Mize to throw around. I know it's kind of the last chance for Casey Mize, but this rotation has some names that can do some damage, I feel like, to opposing hitters. And then obviously their other big signing was Gleyber Torres from the New York Yankees. 1-year prove-it deal. But I really do like this deal because it solidifies the infield, that shortstop position, or is he shortstop or second base? I'm blanking. My goodness, he's second base. Sorry.
Second base, yeah.
Second base. So putting him in second base, I feel like is definitely a big upgrade. The Spencer Torkelson experiment's also on its very last string. So I like the move of Colt Keith to first base, put Gleyber Torres in there at second, and then Trey Sweeney, Javi Baez are going to alternate shortstop, Matt Vierling back at third. I don't mind that as much. Obviously, they were in play for Alex Bregman. That didn't work out. But I feel like this does match their mold a little bit of what they want to do. Gleyber's going to fit right in with the culture in Detroit. And I also believe that he's going to be a pretty good hitter because obviously, like, the Tigers didn't win baseball games because they put up 10 runs a game. Their lineup is probably mid to bottom half of the league in terms of production on the offensive side of the ball. But I feel like adding Gleyber Torres into a lineup like this, especially with Riley Green emerging as much as he has, I think that'll definitely be helpful. So Riley Green doesn't do everything. I feel like this lineup, Kerry Carpenter obviously helped a little bit too, but the rest of these guys were a little bit streaky in that Detroit lineup. Colt Keith should take a leap, but also just adding a safe bet like Gleyber Torres, and also better than some of those some of those acquisitions in the offseason they brought in before. Like, if Detroit was going to spend money, which they barely do, this is also why I feel like they're a winner. They actually spent money this offseason. They're not normally accustomed to this. And when they do, they go out and get lower name free agents like Jonathan Scope, Robbie Grossman. They bring guys like in that they aren't going to wow you. They're not going to put up. It's just another complimented guy to put your 250 hitter next to a 245 hitter. And I feel like Gleyber Torres is not going to hit 300, but he provides more on the offensive side of the ball than some of those free agent acquisitions they brought in the years past.
Yeah, he's going to bring.
I do really like the Tigers here.
He's going to bring the boom a little bit there. I mean, as much as you can bring the boom in Comerica Park.
Yeah.
I personally, if I'm a Tigers fan, I'm like, okay, look, I think we're gonna make the playoffs again. I think we could at least push for the playoffs. They got to do something at the deadline to like an outfield bat, a third base bat, because Matt Vierling can play anywhere. Just a guy who can hit home runs. Because one of the things that you really saw in the playoffs was the team, when they went down, they didn't look like they could come back. And so when Tariq Skubal went out in there and gave up a grand slam, the game was over. You know, and that's why I really wish they would have put more emphasis on hitting. But championship teams are built through pitching, and the Tigers are no stranger to having a pitching factory. Scherzer, Price, like those guys way back when. I mean, Justin Verlander too. All those guys were. I think they were all Cy Young winners at one point or another on the Tigers or on a different team. But like that's the kind of recipe they're going for here. I mean, obviously you don't have 3 future Hall of Famers. I mean, I guess David Price, Hall of very good. But you don't really have that kind of, you don't have those guys, but you have guys that are really good, because pitching's almost a lost art in MLB. But those guys are going to be good. So I do agree with the Tigers. I took the cliche pick. I took the obvious one with the Dodgers. So I'm glad that we had some parity on here. But that will about do it for this show. I'd like to thank Jake for joining us again, and
of course.
I'm really happy, really with how things are going right now. But we got another week of sports ahead of us. We're gonna have a great episode for you next week. But also stay tuned for the official play-by-play Substack page where we repost and write about the stuff that we can't get into the episode. But I've been Leo West, joined by Jake Smith, and we will see you next week. Peace.
Peace.